Your Royal Highness, congratulations, first of all, on your recent appointment. President of International Esports Federation.
Thank you very
You're on
much.
the board of Global Esports Federation. You are, esports for the world now. So talk to us a little bit about, I suppose, the global growth in gaming in the last few years.
Well, I mean, it has been... Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's amazing to be back in Hong Kong. This is a place that is very dear to my heart. I have a lot of very good friends here. But when you talk about esports, the growth has been spectacular over the last 20 years. I mean, it's growing at an average rate, I think, of 12% per year consistently. And by the end of 2023, it's projected there will be 3.75 billion gamers in the world. Wow. Now, of course, the gaming industry is much bigger than esports. Esports is a subsect of that. Our professionals, as in any other sport, are the top 1%, roughly, of the gamers that really spend the time, the effort, the training to be the best of the best. And the growth even there, the market right now, I think in 2022, was somewhere in the range of $90 billion US, which is huge. And the growth, especially in the Asia Pacific, wow, is roughly 50% of the market. It's about 49–50% of the market. And so this is a major trend maker, both when you talk about game creation, when you talk about influencers, when you talk about trends within gaming, and some of the best players in the world. As well as, with what we're doing in Saudi, I will humbly say some of the best events in the world as well.
And I'm going to come on to exactly what you're doing in Saudi in just a minute. Jerry, when we look at gaming, when we look at esports, I mean, could it reshape global culture? Is that a possibility? Let's look at the trends. It's certainly moving in the right direction, without a doubt.
There's no doubt that gaming is touching a lot of aspects of our lives. As Prince Faisal just highlighted, it's a phenomenal opportunity, not only for education and gaming, but it really impacts the day-to-day social connectivity of people. And oftentimes people talk about, well, is gaming an isolated genre, or is there loneliness? There isn't. I mean, gamers have been building communities for many, many years. I think everyone's just realizing that gaming is impactful and clearly shaping many parts of our lives.
Okay, clearly I'm going to have to start gaming. I'm just thinking that one. So, Yue-Sai, given your background as an entertainer, cultural promoter, a content creator for many, many years, come down to, I suppose, the influence of Asia reshaping global culture. And, no matter how we look at getting our content, it comes back to content, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Asia really has been, I cannot talk about influencing culture of the world without mentioning the Korean influence. Ellana and I were last week in Tokyo, and we were experiencing an extraordinary concert. 100,000 fans were screaming and celebrating their fans. The Koreans, that's intense fandom culture is really spreading around the world. And you know that you can't even get a ticket to Blackpink these days. You can't get to see BTS anymore.
We'll try to get you one next time.
She's so good. So, and then of course, 2020, you have the best movie in the world, right? Parasite got 4 Korean movie. Parasite got 4 Oscars, and with Best Pictures also as well. So, and actually, I watch K-drama all the time. I think I watch it as much as the Koreans watch it. So I think that this is a major move in the world today. And I just like to say one more person. We know her very well. Her name is Mickey Lee. And you guys have to remember that name. She is very much responsible for the push of this K-wave. The Chinese have coined this term, Hanliu. Hanliu is a term coined in the middle 90s. It talks about how the Koreans are so popular and how they are exporting all these cultures around the world. So Korea has to be one. But I'll tell you more about
You'll tell me more about it.
later.
And of course, Ellana, you originally come from South Korea as well. But now you're here with us. I'm so happy you are. And when we look at, I suppose, different types of digital entertainment and how the whole news operations, how viewing what was once just broadcast is all changed. You know, we look at broadcast, we used to hear about narrowcast, now it's like very specific cast. Again, ultimately, it comes down to good content, doesn't it?
No, I think everyone in this room knows content is king at the end of the day, right? So you have to make sure that you're investing in the best content. That means you have to be investing in the best talent. And we were talking about different types of content. I represent an organization where we are heavily news focused, so clearly what's happening in the news, breaking news. But a different responsibility I have is looking after all the features content outside of the US. And that, to me, and just to put in the context of the world we live in, to me, I believe the content creators and the people who are the talent in content are like the new diplomatic ambassadors of the world. Right now, where the world is so polarized on the political landscape, I believe the content that we're creating on the feature side, that's one of the best ways to bridge cultures, to bridge understanding. No one's going to go into an esports game and say, hey, I mean, there might be competition, country to country. South Korea, we just hosted a really major game 2 weeks ago, was it, Prince Faisal? But it's where you can have dialogue. Like you can have areas of commonality. And so I feel like it's a really important mission from our network that we do cover the news, we do cover what's happening, which is quite sobering. But at the same time, we're creating this safe space where people can have a lot of commonality. And so that's where the content comes in.
And Jerry would probably argue that there's a lot of community around gaming as well.
I mentioned this earlier, and this is something that I think Your Highness and I have talked about quite a bit.
Maybe.
But gaming has been a fundamental, groundbreaking piece of helping individuals who used to sit in their place at home and maybe sometimes not even feel that they were connected. But once they started realizing that they have a intrinsic value and that their connectivity is across the world, it started really shaping and touching everything. So the content and the community that's being built together is unheard of. And this is part of really what's going to shape the opportunity.
Just an antidote, because I have a 10-year-old nephew, and he's the focus, obviously, of the family, right? And him spending so much time on gaming is a problem for the family, right? But one day we were there. He had a gaming going on, and he had a Japanese friend, a Chinese friend, and an English-speaking friend in that console. And so it has opened the eyes of specifically my mother, who's always worried that he's going to be addicted to games. But it's a playground that I think is far more. It's far more communicative, and I think that's really what's really important in these type of different cultures we're talking about.
And again, Prince Faisal, I think it comes back to gaming for good, and many people might say out there that, but everything is for good or evil, so you have to, there's no way out of that. I think we've talked about so many different aspects of just the world and civilization. But when it comes to gaming, how important is it we really keep it focused?
Well, I mean, as with anything, too much of anything is a bad thing. I mean, you can drink too much water, and that'll not be good for you. But done in the right way, gaming can have very positive effects, whether it's cognitive, whether it's hand-eye coordination, among many other things. And when you talk about a community, one of the interesting things that I read the other day was in the US, they're actually using gaming for veterans with PTSD. And people automatically think that it's because of the games and because of whatever's happening in the game, but it's not. It's the community that you build around you in gaming. These are people that check on you. These are people that contact you, that make sure you're doing okay. And what's interesting is the trend now moving, especially coming out of COVID, there's more of a request and more of a want for offline events where people can actually get together in person. And that's a lot of what we're trying to grow, whether it be in Saudi or whether it be at the global level, is giving our young men and women a chance to get together more. Because while they are very sociable online, there is no replacement for human interaction. And these are the ages where they are the most prone to learning how to interact with people. So getting them together more and using gaming as a platform to bring people together. We did an event recently in Saudi. We did our 4th year of Gamers Without Borders, where we raise every year $10 million for charity. We put a $10 million prize pool, and the winners of each tournament get to choose which charity they donate their prize pool to. And that has had, I mean, the effect on that, not just seeing them go out and strive to do good and strive to give to the different charities, seeing the charities push and strive to win the gamers over so they donate to them. And then at the end of the year, we get to give them a report of what their money has done. And the looks on their faces, you know, they send us pictures and notes about how happy they are knowing that they've done this massive amount of good around the world.
Wow, no, that is great to hear. Now, Yue-Sai, you know, you were probably one of the original cultural exchange promoters back in the day when you were doing, you know, Chinese and Asian programming for the US. That type of cultural exchange in terms of programming and opening people's eyes, I mean, how important is that still today? And, you know, what is now? What are we doing about that? Are we still doing enough of that?
Yeah, you talk about visionary, actually. I think that the two programs that I did specifically, one was the one that introduced Americans for the first time to Asian cultures, and the other one is the one on CCTV that really opened up the eyes of 1 billion people to what the outside world was like. Now, that was a very powerful thing to do. So I call it visual content is very, very powerful. You can really use it to do some fantastic things. When you use it correctly, it can really change a culture. You can really do a lot of things. So what I think the future of communication is? Social media. I must say is social media. Because social media is really amazing. You know, you have a phone, right? I mean, that you can connect this to the world. There are 5 billion phones around the world. 80% of the time that we use the phone is used to connect with people. That means with this phone, we can actually communicate with just about anything. Engagement can happen at any moment. So this is what the power is of social media. And of course, social media can be good, and social media can be good and bad. But the social media, if you use correctly, can be very, very good.
Ellana, when we look at what CNN is doing, and again, it's about how we digest programming. It can be on the phone, it can be on a screen, it can be on an old-fashioned TV, it can be anywhere. But you've also done some specific programming for mobile. But another thing I'm just curious about is, how about, you know, inclusive voices and bringing other cultures together, and you have programs that come from different areas. How big a focus is that for you?
So look, if you, half of me covers straight news. In that way, the news drives where you go. The news drives who you speak to in many ways. So that's a bit encapsulated, and it's ring-fenced in that way. Is there diversity in that area? Probably not, because specific to an incident, specific to a country. However, in the features world that we cover, we want to make sure that we not only hire the people about the world that we represent, but also we create content of the world that we cover. And that's really important in this feature space. But you take an example such as sustainability. I think, you know, for sustainability, we've launched a program called Call to Earth about 4 years ago. It's a real pride moment of mine, because why? Because it's about sustainability in terms of the solutions. I think in terms of creating that type of features content, it's also really important the angle that you take. Part of us will cover the breaking news, the wildfires, the rivers, the drowning, etc. But we will also cover the solutions, the innovations, the technologies. Because it shows that if you keep giving viewers what's negative about the world, they don't feel they have the power to change it. And it's interesting. Our viewership who looks at the story content for Call to Earth, they will stick with us for about 3 minutes. In terms of television, in terms of digital, that's an eternity. Which shows you that good news, positive news, is shareable, and people actually stick around that. So in that space, we want to make sure that we cover people from all parts of the world, but also the demographics as well. So for Call to Earth, we specifically also gear towards high school students. Because ultimately, these high school students, they're going to be in the C-suites making decisions about sustainability in their own businesses. So I think in that space, that's the diversity that we push for, and we hope to continue to do so.
And I think that, you know, in terms of education, and I think all of you might touch on this.
Yeah, I think that social media can be a very important educational tool. And so, for example, if we don't agree with what CNN is saying, we can have our own voice. We actually can.
And people do.
And of course.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. But using your social media, you can actually affect many things. You can give your opinion. You can link a whole lot of people together. That's what we call it, social media. So we can converse with each other. So I think the future of real communication is that the short bits. It's no longer. I used to make 1-hour documentaries and make a lot of them, right? And no longer that it's going to be the future of communication. It's going to be 3 seconds, 10 seconds, maximum 10 minutes. That's the future in my mind.
And of course, gaming comes into this too in terms of making content and how we look at content. Jerry, talk to me about also where gaming can fit into education, content and education.
Yeah, imagine if you can enrich your learning and by leveraging the power of the technology and gamifying that experience and potentially learning some new skills that could ultimately drive new career fields.
And that's happening, yeah.
And that's happening today. Ed tech is roughly about 100 billion about last 3 or 4 years. By the end of 2026 is roughly to reach about 415 billion. So educational technology, EdTech, is huge. The opportunity is how do we ensure that it has the right governance, the right content, and that it really has something sticky. And the way we can make it sticky is by gamifying and really using gaming and game tech to really push that forward. I know something that Prince Faisal has looked at quite heavily as well. So.
Continue that conversation, but also I think gaming in training for industry and safety and all of that, we're beginning to see a lot more of that.
I mean, if you think about different industries, you think about architecture.
Yes.
When you go to build a building, what do you do first? You build it out in a gaming engine. When you talk about the military, you're doing military drills, you're doing building out equipment in a gaming, a gaming world first. So it is touching many other things. And it is something that our young men and women around the world are interested in. They do want to do it. They want to play. So how can we use that as a tool, as you said earlier, for doing good? And as Ellana said earlier, content is king. And having these young men and women, I mean, some of them, when you talk about social media and influencers, some of these gaming influencers have millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions of followers. True. So how can we help them use that platform for the betterment, for showcasing, mental health issues, making sure people are not becoming addicted, but using gaming in the right way, showing people who want to be a professional gamer how to be a professional gamer. That's not playing for 12, 16 hours a day. That's playing for the right amount, that's eating right, that's taking care of your body, taking care of your mental health. And then also on an educational platform, how do you create the heroes out of these young men and women that can really showcase that this can be used for the benefit of all, it can be used for education, and it can be used to help transition into other industries. Because you learn through gaming and through esports, leadership, communication, tech. I mean, there's so many skills that you learn, and how do you help them understand that these are skills that can transition to other industries as well?
And of course, it's a whole new profession as well. I mean,
it is.
Professional
There's a whole career
gamers.
path. Well, not just gamers, but you talk about production, you talk about casters, you talk about even legal, financial. I mean, there's so much in this as an industry.
So it comes back to creating content again and storytelling. Ultimately, isn't it? It's different storytelling, but storytelling.
But also, I mean, just because we're in Hong Kong, and I'm really glad FII has come to Hong Kong. If we look specifically in the entertainment space, and yes, I come from South Korea, so I kind of feel this on a daily basis. When I was growing up, it was literally, you looked at Hong Kong movies. I had to go to, after school, I had to go to kind of a back-end alley to get VHSs of the Hong Kong films. And then throughout the high school, it was Hollywood that dominated. But it's a really proud moment for all of us in Asia to see that the content is actually originating from Asia and it's being exported out. So it's not only taking content that's created from the Western world, and we can do it on the same level. But more importantly, the financials are there to back it. So because the content is from Asia, the financials are not lower. It's just as pricey and just as competitive. And I think that's the kind of world we live in. So I am a huge supporter of not only the news that we do, but also the features, and really great credit to the creators, the directors, the writers, the people who are doing it. And we haven't even talked about manga, for example, which is another great area of creation that is going to be taking over your traditional television space.
And I'm going to have to get Yue-Sai to talk about that in her sort of last comment here about content.
It's very interesting, we are not, Asian influence has been around for quite some time. It's just that we're not so aware of it. Look at anime, okay? Anime is huge. Anime is a $23 billion business where, a Korean drama is only $1 billion. So anime has been influencing for 60 years and is in 200 countries. But everybody is now investing in Asian material today. Look at Netflix. Netflix is investing $2.5 billion on Korean drama, Korean movies, for example. So I think that people are beginning to wake up and say, wow, these are being watched by people all over the world, and they are investing now.
So it is one to watch, and we have to wrap this up. Ellana, if there's sort of hope for the future and not quite a prediction for the future, but how convinced are you and optimistic that we're going to be seeing a lot more content coming from this part of the world?
I'm really optimistic. Obviously, there's a momentum that's taking place. I do think, set this optimism aside, the one thing we do need to be careful about, content is king, but it dies if you don't have distribution. And so the distribution, it's got to figure out who controls the distribution. What price points are they going to demand? And is that going to be able to keep up with the content creators, right? So it's an ecosystem we have to support. It's not either or, right? And so I would say I'm very optimistic. I think there's some wind behind, some momentum going on with content creation in Asia, but we also need to be very careful and think about the distribution channel and the price your consumer is going to have to pay or going to be asked to pay to get access to that content.
So Yue-Sai, again, how do we get that message out there? How do we distribute?
Again, social media.
Yes,
social media. You can have a channel. I can have a channel. We can really do it. The key is how do you promote your content? Because there's so many voices, so much noise. So you have to learn how to promote your content. Social media is, to me, the future. I've been in another area for a long, long time, but this is the way to go. You can really unite people together. You can do so much good. We can make the world a better world, actually, just by using social media.
That's so true. And again, everything can fit on that. Gaming, content, whatever you want to watch. Looking ahead, where's the new focus? And where do you see gaming going?
Gaming will continue to grow, and it'll continue to impact and shape quite a bit of our lives. Ultimately, gaming is here to stay, and gaming is really, truly building communities. And it starts with the grassroots. And I think that's a big takeaway for us, and inviting as many people to come experiencing gaming and come out to Riyadh and see what's happening there as well.
And so by the time we come again next year, we're all going to be on top of gaming, right? Me included. So again, your optimism for the future as you look at the global gaming, but again, all about the creator economy.
So I think, we've talked about the content and the creators and the social media, and gaming is a part of all of that. But I think for me, what's the most interesting is the game creation. In all forms of media, you consume it in different ways. You watch TV, you watch someone do something or talk about someone. When you read a book, you read about someone who's done something. But when you're gaming, you are doing it yourself. And it's the best way to export your culture. You think about games that I grew up playing, like Dynasty Warriors, which went through the history of China. First time I visited China, I knew the generals, I knew the battles, and everyone thought I had studied this at school, and I had no idea. It was just through gaming.
That's wonderful.
But it gives you a chance to live a day in someone else's shoes and actually go through it yourself. And so I think game creation and as a way to export culture and content is the thing I'm most excited for.
And what wonderful, fresh eyes way to look at it in many ways. But it comes back to content, I think, again. Thank you all so much to all of you. Ellana, Yue-Sai, thank you so much, Jerry, and Your Royal Highness. Great to have you here. Thank you again so much.